Greetings, everyone. It's your old pal Fromark here once again with another episode of Fromark Plays, and this time I'm going to be playing Sonic 3D Blast on the Sega Genesis. Originally released in November 8th, 1996, exactly 1 month before I was born. And yeah, this game's pretty neat if I do say so myself, although it's always tough to pick between the Genesis and the Saturn versions of the game. They're both pretty good, but I prefer the Saturn version, but I don't currently have a way to record that version, so here we go, folks. And there's a neat little cutscene at the beginning. Flickies are mysterious birds that live in another dimension and can travel anywhere through large rings. But yeah, pretty much explaining the plot here. Robotnik learns about the Flickies. I will change the Flickies into robots and have them search for the Chaos Emeralds for me. Using the infinite power of the Emeralds, I can conquer the world. Sonic visits Flicky Island to see his friends, but the only thing he finds are robots. That's no good. Robotnik made my friends like this. I must save them. Robotnik must be stopped. Sonic starts to defeat the enemies in order to rescue the Flickies who are trapped inside. Go, Sonic. You can warp through the big rings with the help of the Flickies, chase after Robotnik, and defeat his plans. So yeah, there you have the plot of the game, folks, and we start off in Green Grove Zone. Now, each zone here is made up of 3 acts, and as your typical Sonic fashion, it starts off in a green, checkerboard kind of level. Actually, all the level layouts have checkerboard patterns, which is kind of a Sonic staple at this point. But yeah, this game is a little bit different from the rest of the Sega Genesis Sonic games. It is a spin-off title of sorts. It's not a mainline series game, and it has this 2.5D perspective, although the game's called 3D Blast. It's not technically in 3D. Maybe that cutscene at the beginning was, because I have a feeling that harnessed a lot of the Sega Genesis's Genesee? It harnesses a lot of the power of the system, I would say, with all of its blast processing. And then the rest of the game's pretty much this. It's pretty much just rescuing the birds in each act. You fight a boss, you fight Eggman in every third act. But it's pretty good stuff. I mean, it depends, though. Sometimes I'm not always in a mood to play this, but this is one game that I find myself going back to pretty regularly. In fact, I tend to play it more often than most Sonic games. It's not my favorite by any means. Ooh. So yeah, here's the first special stage, and you access the special stages in each act by having 50 rings, and you either approach Knuckles or Tails, who make cameo appearances in this game. Sucks that you can't play as them, but it is called Sonic 3D Blast, I guess. But yeah, these special stages are incredibly piss-easy and lackluster. I really appreciate the ones on the Saturn version because they're full 3D models, and it's got the classic half-pipe style special stage. I mean, these get the job done. I would definitely like to record the Saturn version of 3D Blast one of these days. I'm not rolling it out despite picking the Genesis version first. It's just, I don't have $600 to buy one of those RetroTink upscalers for my Saturn, so I'm sure there's cheaper alternatives, but I haven't figured those out yet. You got those Jolly Rancher looking Chaos Emeralds. That's kind of what they look like in this game. Now it just makes me want some Jolly Ranchers. Or just some gummy candies, I guess. Either one would suffice. But I'm currently at work, so I can't just go get either one. Ooh, this game is the first to technically introduce the homing attack, as when you have that yellow shield, it allows you to home in on the enemies. I feel like it's pretty much the precursor to the homing attack, which is a 3D modern Sonic staple at this point. And one of my favorite things to do in Sonic games is just pew, 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 hit enemies with the homing attack and rack up homing chains and good stuff. But yeah, there are quite a few other differences between the Genesis and Saturn versions of the game. Like, the graphics look a lot prettier, the music's different, there's 2 separate soundtracks between the Genesis and the Saturn versions. There's several things, though, about Sonic 3D Blast that really kind of bother me, and a lot of that comes down to, I mentioned how I play this fairly often these days, but I don't find myself sitting through the entire game and beating it in one sitting. It's like an hour and a half on average to get through it if you know what you're doing, but this game, weirdly enough, doesn't have a save feature, which just seems very strange for 1996 standards. So that makes it kind of tough to just pick it up and start it all over again when you don't really feel like it. However, when I did sit down to do this playthrough, I pretty much just did it all in one go. I didn't do any practice runs ahead of time. I just sat down and got to business, got to work. And that might be a little bit evident with my sloppy playing style later on. But that's just a classic trademark Fromark plays kind of thing. You gotta have a little bit of slop sometimes. But the first act went pretty smoothly, if I do say so myself, and now it's time for Act 2. I like how Act 2 has a remix of Act 1's music, which the Saturn version does that too. But yeah, there are several things that are lacking in Sonic 3D Blast that just kind of take away from the overall experience. And the overall samey nature of a lot of this game, just as it is, I have a bit of a short attention span, so it's kind of hard for me to sit down and play games for long periods of time anyway. So usually I just give up after about a half hour of playing this, and I'm like, yeah, I got my fill for now. Try to get as many rings as I can for that next special stage. If you don't have 50 rings, you're just gonna have to keep feeding Tails and Knuckles some rings until you have enough for the special stage. And you can only visit the special stage, you can only visit special stages once per act. It doesn't matter if you pick Knuckles or Tails, it'll be the same special stage regardless. So you pretty much just only have to do that once in each act. Then at a certain point later on in the game, they stop showing up. I can't remember what zone that is that they stop showing up, but I'm sure it'll be noticeable by the time I get there. I do go after all the emeralds in this one, though, since it's fairly easy to do. But yeah, my earliest memories of Sonic 3D Blast, well, that would take me back to 2007 when I got the Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube. There were a bunch of different Sonic games that I was first introduced to on the Mega Collection, and this, Sonic Spinball, Mean Bean Machine, and a few of the other unlockables. I didn't even play Sonic 1 until I got the Sonic Mega Collection. I played Sonic 2 and 3 years before that, but I'd never played Sonic 1 up to that point. So getting that collection was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. And I remember playing this one a lot back then too. In fact, there's a couple of very particular memories of playing Sonic 3D Blast that always stick out to me. One of those happens to be where I remember I was playing Sonic 3D Blast, and I decided to take a break to eat dinner, and my mom didn't feel like cooking that night, so I just had a Hungry Man meal and put on an episode of The Simpsons. And I remember eating like some really spicy Slim Jim or something really spicy that didn't agree with me and didn't agree with the Hungry Man. Get that second Jolly Rancher there. Something tells me I'm going to be picking up a bag of Jolly Ranchers soon. Not my favorite candy, but I do enjoy it from time to time. It's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite candy, to be honest. Like, if we're talking candy bars, it'd probably either be Reese's Fast Break or the Zero bars. You know, the ones with the white chocolate on them? Those are good. I love those things. But if we're talking, like, candy, I'd probably have to say either Spree, which those things are really good, but surprisingly, I've been having a hard time finding those recently. Those used to be, like, everywhere when I was a kid, and now it's like, if I find them, it's just, there's little tubes of them, there's like little rolls of them that only come with, like, maybe 20 Spree. And then there's the giant bags of Spree, but I never find the classic, like, movie theater box-sized boxes of Spree anywhere anymore, and that's what I want. Which I associate those with Sonic Rush, because I remember getting my first DS, and then it would have been January 2009 when I was playing that a lot, and I remember eating a lot of Spree around that time, and just enjoying some Sonic Rush. I remember, oh yeah, that was around January of that year, because there was like some kind of Three Stooges marathon on AMC. They used to do these. Okay, wait, that would have been 2010 when they did the marathon, but maybe they did one in 2009? Oh, I know what I'm remembering now. I watched a lot of Bernie Mac at the time. That's a good show, too. But yeah, so Sonic 3D Blast here with its 3D, pseudo-3D goodness. Get another homing attack. There's several different types of flickies you can rescue. There's the blue ones, which they kind of follow you around. Like, if you get hit and the flickies scatter, they're the ones most likely to just come back to you. There's the red ones, which kind of just jump around like maniacs. There's the pinkish-looking ones, which I don't really know what they do. And then there's the green ones. They don't really do anything special either. But I feel like the blue and the red ones are the most standout. But yeah, that's going to do it for Act 2 of Green Grove. Oh yeah, keeping in classic Sonic fashion, just like how Sonic CD, every zone's an alliteration. It's the same case here. You got your Green Grove, your Rusty Ruin, your Spring Stadium. I sure do like me some good alliterations. Hence why I'm going to name my first album Digital Dust. Which reminds me, there's a zone in this game later called Diamond Dust. Which is probably my favorite zone in the whole game, just because of the whole snow theme. This is a really good boss theme, by the way. There's 2 different boss themes. And this is my favorite one. Now, the thing that makes the music stand out the most to me in the Genesis version, a lot of it's good. A lot of the Saturn version's good too, but they were composed by 2 different people. The Genesis version was composed by Jun Sano in some of his earliest work in the franchise. So I always found that pretty neat. Alright, if I can just land a couple more hits on the Eggman here, I'd say that'll take care of business. Ah, I wasn't close enough there that time. I'd say this should do it. No? Looks like maybe one more. See if I can... I don't want to get myself killed here. Yeah, there's some rings. Cool. But yeah, every boss battle's kind of like this. You're in a little arena-style area, and that's gonna do it for the big bad Dr. Eggman here in Green Grove, anyway. And that's gonna do it for Part 1, folks. I will see you in Part 2.